in 2014 after the Sunflower Movement. And so we run the space as a way to do talks, discussions, panels. We felt having an online publication on politics in Taiwan was not enough, and so we tried to open a physical space, which is what this is. And so I'll just let Yvonne take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone, for skipping Olympics and being here tonight. 今天晚上有羽球、网球跟桌球，谢谢你们还在这里。How many people are following the Olympics? 没有，难怪你们会在这里。
We gave up everything to be here.
OK， 我们今天有人从台中来，然后觉得很感动。那今天是it's the last talk of our series, Intergenerational Trauma. And I see some familiar faces, new faces, and it's a new experience for me too. It's a special connection with the participants. And thank you for coming to the talk. And today is a little bit different from our previous talks. The previous talk we talked about the first generation and second generation, the history of Taiwan, the cross-generational anxiety, cross-generational trauma, education, things like that. But today we're talking about a very unique population in this era. Is that in the past 10 years, we have a lot of Taiwanese Americans coming back to Taiwan, reconnecting with their roots, rediscovering themselves. Some of them stay, start a family, find a job, and pick up the language again. Some of them return back to the U.S. So today, because I'm a therapist, a lot of my clients are this population, Taiwanese Americans. And I realized, before COVID, there were already people coming here, but during COVID and after COVID, there was a huge wave of migration. A lot of Taiwanese Americans temporarily or permanently reside in Taiwan, in all different cities, not just Taipei. Because I see clients Taipei, Taichung physically, but I also see them online. So I have met people, they are living in Tainan, Yunlin, Yilan, Taitung. And every county has a personality. So there's a reason for them to choose that county. And everybody's story is very unique. So we don't try to generalize. What I learned about this population is impossible to generalize Taiwanese American. What is Taiwanese American? After learning so many stories, I feel, wow, this could be even more diverse than Taiwanese. But for Taiwanese people, Taiwanese American is a word. It's one type of people, one person, Taiwanese American. And they have some imagination, assumptions, and stereotypes. So today we are trying to zoom in and learn different types of Taiwanese American, what they are going through coming back to Taiwan. And a lot of these stories are like true stories. This is exactly what they are going through. It's inspiring in a way to see how resilient these children of Taiwan are. So I'm gonna start by introducing 4 populations of Taiwanese Americans. Of course, there's more, okay? But I just choose this 4 group of people, and let's take a look. The first one is second generation business owners. Some people, they come back to Taiwan because their father started the business. And then they take over the company, 就是富二代. And they start doing business in Asia, they start doing business in Taiwan. But they grew up in the US. They receive education in the US. They might speak Mandarin or they might not speak Mandarin. And then they come back and start doing business right away. This is a huge impact. So we're gonna talk about this population. And the second one is 回来学中文. They never learned Mandarin growing up. And now, okay, there are different kinds of people who didn't grow up with Mandarin. One is they only speak English. They grew up with English only. Their parents didn't speak Mandarin with them. 其实也有一些人 their parents spoke Hakka and Taiwanese. And that's why they don't speak Mandarin. That doesn't mean they don't speak other languages. But they come back to Taiwan and they realize, oh, okay, most people speak Mandarin, especially in Taipei. If I only speak Hakka or Taiwanese, it's gonna limit my social life. So they will go to 师大 or 台大，最主要是这两个地方。But it could be private tutoring too, or dating. So they start learning the language. It's a very humbling experience. If they are learning English, they go to the Chinese school here, which also means they have a career transition. Because what do they do with their job and work? Either temporarily put aside, become a full-time student, or they do something else in Taiwan while learning Mandarin. Okay, so this is the second population. And the third population is biracial children, or biracial, multiracial, and third culture kids. There are a lot of third culture kids, Taiwanese American. Okay, mainly because a lot of Taiwanese business people, they do business in Southeast Asia, in China, and other countries you can imagine, Africa, Argentina, South America. And they have the second generation, third generation, and they come back to Taiwan. And these kids grew up, usually because of the language, depends on what country they are, they usually go to the international schools. So I have clients from Thailand, Vietnam, they grew up in the international Philippines, in the international schools in Southeast Asia, or Shanghai, Shenzhen, 也有很多那个 American school, international school. So the primary language used at school was English. And then they come back to Taiwan. Even though it's their mother tongue or their parents' language, they still feel like they are learning a new language, going to a new country. And could be a very tricky feeling. And the last population I want to talk about is going back and forth. Like, okay, they grew up in Taiwan, they immigrated to the US when they were 5, and they come back for middle school, and they go back for university. There are a lot of people like that. And this population is often invisible and overlooked because they are kind of bilingual. They have been in both educational systems, but people often overlook the difficulty of this segments of migration, the impact of migration on these children. So we're going to talk about these 4 populations. The first one I want to talk about 就是回来学中文的。Reset their career path. 有些人是 for second chance, second life, 然后有些人是 just graduated from school. 不一样的年龄，什么年龄都有。And when they come back, there's a reason they pick Taiwan. They have to like Taiwan, or at least curious about Taiwan to pick Taiwan. And at least they are interested in learning Chinese. 所以他们回来。所以 there will be some honeymoon, especially food. And it's very healing for the first time. Like, oh, I am not the only Asian in the room, right? It's very healing. And a lot of things that you have to explain, now it's normal and common. People don't even ask you. So it's very healing. So people have, each individual who come back to learn Chinese, 都有不同的 adjustment curve. 要看他在家里面 how much Mandarin they're speaking at home, how much Mandarin they know, how fluent they are. Growing up, do they have Taiwanese friends or Taiwanese families, neighbors around? Do they come back to Taiwan every year, every summer to visit their grandparents? 其实有些人他 when they return to 师大学中文, before that, maybe 20 years, 15 years, 20 years, they were never here, never came back. So the last memory was childhood memory, and then they came back and they realized, okay, first of all, Taiwan changed a lot in the past 10 years. This is not the memory of their parents, and this is definitely not the memory of their childhood. So that there's going to be huge culture shock. So they're going to go through honeymoon. It's very calming. but they also go through culture shock and cultural adjustment. There's a huge difference in how people do business, like spatial perception, how close people are, how distant, privacy and boundary. It's all different. How they serve you in a restaurant, how they charge you, do they pay you for working overtime? If you're teaching English here, it's a cram school system. It's different from what they pick up in the US. A totally different educational system and mindset. So there's a lot of adjustment to go through, but the most challenging part is socioeconomic status downgrade. For example, a person could be a lawyer in New York. They come back, the license cannot be transferred. A lot of professions are like that. So what do? They'll find whatever job they can get. A lot of them ended up teaching English, either at international schools or cram schools. So the income might vary. If you work at cram school, that's not a lot. If you work in international schools, okay, maybe pretty decent. You can pay off your student loan. So switching profession is a huge thing in life because it's switching identity. Maybe they were a nurse, maybe they were a researcher, and lawyer, professional, and then came back teaching English or learning Chinese, becoming a student. So it's a huge adjustment. It's a big gap in social status. It might not always be the bad thing, but I'm just saying that it's a big adjustment. So this is the population, and also what they will go through is they realize the honeymoon phase, it passed, and then they realize, oh my God, this is not what I imagined. Not what I imagined when I first moved to Taiwan, when I chose Taiwan. Taiwanese people have assumptions and stereotypes on me, okay? If I look Taiwanese, they expect me to speak fluent Mandarin. And if I don't speak Mandarin, they look at me weird. 你为什么台湾人都不会讲？你爸妈没有教你吗？ Okay. Or, 他们觉得哦，你就是美国人。So they kind of decide who you are for you based on your appearance or your nationality, status, or how you introduce your name. Okay, sometimes. So a lot of people complain about they're constantly being challenged. 为什么你不会说中文? Okay, this thing. And also they think because you speak English, you are privileged. Life must be easy for you, okay, which might not be true for Taiwanese Americans. So they constantly have to deal with those stereotypes. And disappointment, of course. When they find out, okay, the salary I'm making right now, I can barely support myself, barely have some savings. The dreams are limited, okay, and they don't know where their next career is. I don't know what I can do, okay, my profession is hard to transfer to Taiwan, and I don't know how long I can teach English for. Some people, it's really challenging for them what they can do in Taiwan. Some professions are really easy. Some people like teaching English, they enjoy teaching English, and they even find a spouse and start a family here, but not everyone is like that. So it's a curve and it's the spectrum. And then sooner or later, they will realize, okay, I thought coming back to Taiwan, I am sort of like everyone else, Taiwanese, I look the same. But then they will figure out, okay, it's hard to find that sense of belongingness here. I still have to figure out who am I. Definitely, I'm not American, I'm not Caucasian, but I don't feel I am Taiwanese either. Even when they speak Mandarin. They can communicate in Mandarin fluently. Sometimes, a lot of times they still feel lonely. A lot of times they feel like, you know, there are certain things I just cannot share with my roommates and my friends in Taiwan. It's a loneliness. So it's a shared experience of loneliness. Okay, so when they come back to Taiwan, a lot of times their attachment wounds will be triggered here. Because of the settings and context, language, atmosphere. A lot of memories will come back, and they will encounter some difficulties, either identity or interpersonal relationship, intimate relationship, and then they will start going to therapy, seeking help, and they will start facing their past. Okay, this is very interesting. When they were in the US, they might not feel, okay, they need to go to therapy. But when they come back to Taiwan, they are closer to their parents' hometown, parents' culture. All of a sudden, a lot of things are triggered. And depends on where they grew up. Okay, I feel there is a big spectrum here. People who grew up in California, I feel California is its own country. And everywhere else is the real America. It's very, very different. If you grew up in Cupertino, like South Bay, San Francisco South Bay, and then you can go to a Taiwanese restaurant every weekend, go to Ranch 99, and you eat Taiwanese food every day. And you don't even have to go to Chinese school because all your neighbors, classmates, and friends are from Taiwan. There is a city like 40% Chinese or Taiwanese American, and in some places even 70% Asian. Some schools, but you know, I have clients from, for example, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas. It's a very lonely experience. They are not Asian, they are not Taiwanese American. It's a very unique experience growing up there. It's already a huge courage. They want to come back to acknowledge their Taiwanese heritage. Think about that, because growing up, no one see them. No one acknowledge their Taiwanese identity and culture and heritage. They're invisible, okay? They don't even have to learn Mandarin. They can pass by speaking English and being American. But how brave they are, they come back and choose to really start humbly and pick up a new language and relearning about their culture and heritage. It's really courageous. Not a lot of people understand how difficult that is. It's very, very difficult. And especially if they have family trauma and they're going through these adjustment challenges at the same time. Can you imagine how stressful that is? And mental health support here in Taiwan, it's not very English friendly. We have a shortage for bilingual therapists, especially outside of Taiwan. I mean Taipei, okay, in Taichung, in the south, especially in the east. You can barely find an English-speaking therapist. So these people, a lot of times they have to figure things out themselves or rely on friends. It's a very lonely journey. Okay, so when they move back to Taiwan, there are two situations. When their parents are still staying in the US, they are the only person who come back to search for the root, reconnect with their root. I would think they are very brave, very courageous. And the parents' identity can be a spectrum too. Some really identify with Taiwan, and some people want their kids to be white, honestly. And why are you going back to Taiwan? Why are you downgrading yourself? And this is like a regression. You know how hard it was for us to take you there, and why are you coming back? Why do you give up your career? Why are you learning Mandarin when you have perfect English? This is not what we work so hard for. Why don't you just go to Harvard and finish your school? So when their parents are still in the US, which means they are really lonely here, and they're different, their parents, okay. First of all, even if they identify with Taiwan, they are not physically here to support them. They have no one here, okay? And the parents pretty much choose America. They identify with America. As a lot of times they have different political views. They vote for different presidents, different political parties, and they have different views. Some might be very traditional, some might be very progressive. That inner struggle, well, it's big for Taiwanese because there's a 孝顺 concept. What's that? Filial piety. People disagree with their parents. It's a big thing in Taiwan. Okay, cool. But for Taiwanese American, maybe it's a little bit flexible because freedom of speech, freedom of choice there. But still, can you imagine? They're already confused about their identity. They don't know about their parents' history. Now their parents have different opinions or world views or political views or values in life, which means they have to fight really hard to secure their choices. Okay, 所以这是很孤单的一个经验。If their parents, okay, don't get me wrong, they are supportive parents even if they live in the U.S. Okay, they're very liberal, they're very supportive of learning English, and sometimes they are impressed. All of a sudden, my daughter can speak Mandarin to me. I never taught her that, and how come she calls me and starts speaking Mandarin? Okay, they are amazed how quick their children can learn Mandarin, and sometimes they learn Taiwanese too. Shock the parents, like, what? Can you help me with my homework? And the parents were like, what? It's amazing. Okay, if the parents already decide to move back to Taiwan. So the reason they move, the second generation move back to Taiwan might be they miss their parents. They don't want to be far away from their parents. They want to be together. And let me figure out why you want to move back. I want to come back. Or it could be they don't want to come back. They like their life in America, but because their parents moved back, and they feel, oh, okay, we're distant. Let me come here to see what's going on here. You know, when the parents are here and they come back, it's another layer of stress. Because now the parents are going to have opinions. When do you start working? You know, what kind of job you pick? 你为什么不学中文啊？你为什么选这个女朋友啊？你为什么不住台北啊？ So all kinds of things. 为什么还不结婚啊？ And there is a pressure, okay, because there's a collective culture in Taiwan. 所以 the power is on the parent side. Because whatever they say, it's justified. Everybody's like that. It's a culture. So they will feel very isolated, misunderstood, and lonely. Parents cannot get them. And relatives could be good or bad. Having a lot of relatives in Taiwan, maybe it's convenient. They help you find your apartment. But it could be drama too. So a lot of people, they start out with the relatives, but they eventually create their own lives, their own life circle, their own social circle, as if they never move back to Taiwan. And relatives and parents, they reside in Taiwan, might trigger their family wounds, developmental trauma. For example, the need to be a child. Okay, now it's getting triggered. 我回来台湾为什么你们都没有人帮我? Nobody knows how difficult it is. Everybody's telling me, 你已经够大了，够老了. You're on your own. You learn to be independent. 为什么现在还要爸妈帮你？你都几岁了? So there is this phase they have to go through. They realize they can never be the child. Even when they come back, 然后每一个 relative they're older, but they still cannot be. They don't get to be a child. So a lot of things will get triggered. Family dynamics. Married to Taiwanese, A lot of people find it healing to start a family in Taiwan because it's getting acceptance, getting accepted by your spouse, by Taiwanese. And now I'm Taiwanese, I have Taiwanese, or my children will be half Taiwanese. It's a new identity, it's a possibility and hope. It's a good thing. But then they will have to face challenges, in-laws. How traditional or liberal the in-laws are, okay? A lot of people go into depression or anxiety simply because having a baby and having the in-laws getting involved, that can already be stressful enough to cause depression. When to feed your baby? Do you want to go to the 坐月子中心, or do you want to have someone at home? Do you need help? Do you want parents to come cook for you? 小孩哭的时候你应该怎么办？小孩跟谁睡？What school to go to, public or private? 小孩要穿名牌的衣服吗？all those things. So sooner or later they will figure out there is still some cultural differences, value differences, different values. A lot of Taiwanese families still 望子成龙, so they, it's implemented deeply in their, in their heart. Academic success is important in life, so it's still important what school, what education you go to. 所以可能有些人会觉得 it's important the child goes to a bilingual school, English school. But this Taiwanese American father, for example, 他自己会说英文，他不觉得我的小孩要去那个 English school, International school. 他觉得小孩应该要去 public school, 然后就会有 value differences. The value on saving, 要不要有 saving? How much money we save? Do we need to buy a house? Okay, or we rent? 有一些价值观非常的不同. Living in the present, or everything is about security. Do we still date after marriage, after having kids? Do we still keep our me time after getting married and having kids? 就会有那些 cultural differences 跑出来。很多时候 Taiwanese American being the only person in front of the spouse and the in-laws, they are outnumbered. So maybe in the US there are the majority, they are the privileged, but in Taiwan they become 好像 in the power dynamic 他们是弱势 marginalized. 好像 their voice is weaker. Okay, so it could create a lot of stress and loneliness. But don't get me wrong, okay? The majority of the time, biracial marriage or cross-cultural marriage is very beautiful. It's very beautiful, and this includes same-sex marriage. So I have seen a lot of clients. They're really happy in same-sex marriage. Even not in marriage, dating life in Taiwan is much better than Iowa. Okay, so the second population I want to address a little bit is the wealthy family, 富二代. This is how I subjectively feel. Their privileges are overrated, exaggerated. So, 这是一种声音, this is a voice, okay? Whenever I want to complain about my dad, whenever I want to complain about my boyfriend or my job in Taiwan, my friends always tell me, you should feel grateful that you have a rich dad. You don't have to worry about mortgages, okay? And you have the education, 你下半辈子都不用烦恼了. 你有什么好 complain? So they lost the right to complain. They lost the right to feel sad. They lost the right to feel unsatisfied. 好像是这个样子. So whenever they start complaining, they're venting, people's reaction will shut them off. So they mute it. 可是其实这个 population, a wealthy family, second generation, there's a myth about this. Because they have money, things are easier for them, and they have less stress. They can do whatever they want, which is not true. Sometimes the opposite. Okay, so from my experiences, what I see is wealth does not equal freedom of choice. Sometimes it's a negative correlation, meaning the wealthier they are, the less freedom of choice they have. Okay, what kind of choices? Choice of spouse. Very simple thing. You can choose who you want to date. In some wealthy families, it's not even a choice. You have to marry someone a certain type, okay? If you bring back a chemistry teacher, high school teacher, it's a shame. Okay, so freedom of choosing a spouse. Career choices. 家里有个公司，你为什么要出去工作？ Why are you starting from the beginning? And choice of schools they go to. 你为什么不去念一个 MBA？ 念 art 干嘛？ If they want to become an artist, they want to live in Taiwan, families would not allow that. And they're constantly under the stress of disappointing their parents. Wealthy, powerful, established parents. A lot of time, it could be mom or dad. Okay, it's not generalize it. It could be mom or dad. 有时候他们会有那种 pressure. I work so hard, to establish this. I don't want you to disappoint me. You have to take over. Okay, so when they take over the company, not even take over because the father is still working, for example. They work together. So a lot of wealthy families, second generation, they have to, it's a family business. They have to work together, okay? The privilege they have is they become the board member right away. They become the CEO, the manager, the leader. Okay, you're in charge of this factory. You're in charge of China. But in reality, so Taiwanese, the business culture in Taiwan is completely different from the American culture. Everything is about 关系, who you know, networking, relationship. Everything is about politics. Everything is about hidden rules. Hidden rules. And a lot of people that grew up in the West, they don't get this. They don't understand it, or they didn't know. They didn't know the context before coming back and doing business in Taiwan. They will fall really hard. They don't understand 为什么会这样子做生意. Why do I have to know this person? Why do I have to sell this? Why do I have to hire this person and use this person in the company? It's a lot of confusion. So the way people do business in Taiwan, so the second generation, okay, they have privilege for sure. It's not fun. Okay, it's a lot of struggle. A lot of times it's humiliating and feeling disrespected, and they don't have a voice. And the pressure of they have to be at least as good as the father, or even better than the father, which is impossible under certain economic circumstance. Or the seniors, 那些 uncles in the company, they don't listen to him, for example. He cannot hire competent employees in Taiwan, or bilingual employees in Taiwan. It's just hard to find competent people here who get his logic. So all these kind of things, okay, it's very stressful and lonely, but what people see from the outside is, 你爸很有钱. That's what they see. So a life being decided, I have almost all of them tell me this. I feel when I was born to this family, everything is decided. The major in college, where I live, where I work, everything is decided. Who I can marry. Sometimes they are not as confident. It's not a very empowering environment to foster a child, because you already have a role model, a successful case out there. It's hard to, the goal is too hard to reach, first of all. And a lot of people, they want to create their own business. They want to create their own career. They will find it difficult to do that within father's business empire. But if I don't join this empire, I start from zero. 好像 I will fall behind 20 years 那种感觉. So they constantly worry about inheritance. Inheritance is a big thing in wealthy families. 所以很多时候 they have to listen to the father. They have to listen to the grandma. Okay, they cannot disagree with their parents, and they will feel very. It's a dilemma. Okay, there is this huge inheritance. Okay, but if I go on my own path, I may lose this. And who am I? Maybe they never had a choice growing up to discover who they are, and all of a sudden they have to 白手起家. It's very difficult. So they fall into this dilemma. So a third population I want to address a little bit is the third culture kid or biracial. In Taiwanese culture, when they look at a biracial child, sometimes it's really the external things, appearance. 他们会觉得 biracial kids are more beautiful. So there's a privilege there. However, from working with biracial adult children, that's not how they feel growing up. Okay, so constantly, because of how they look in school, on the street, neighborhood, 管理员, everybody will be like, you're different from us. Okay, 你的英文一定很好, you must speak perfect English. Or, 哇，你长得好漂亮哦. Okay, but a lot of times they just go to the park to play with other kids, and they will get stared at. 哇，你长得好漂亮哦. This is not a comfortable feeling to be the center of attention, and people constantly, look at you differently. Even though they speak fluent Mandarin, they go to public school, people will be like, 哦，你英文很好哦，你真的长得好帅哦，这样子. But they don't feel happy hearing that. They don't want to be different. Okay, can you imagine growing up since kindergarten? Everywhere you go, people see you as different. When in fact, nothing is different. You go to the same class. You receive the same education. You wear the same clothes. But people constantly see you as different. Different from what? Then what am I? But they grew up in Taiwan. 他也不是 American. 那他的英文可能也不好，有 accent. So they will feel like, am I supposed to be fluent in English? Okay, am I supposed to be like that? But that's not my subjective experience. That's not what I feel. Okay, it's a very lonely feeling, faking and pleasing. So some of them would say, in order to be accepted. Because some of them would say, I don't feel accepted in Taiwan, in the Taiwanese society. People don't accept me for who I am. They always look at me as a biracial child. Sometimes they have to conform and comply in order to be accepted. Like pretend they're interested in the conversation. Pretend 他们都在看 Olympics, 然后都在帮林洋配加油. Pretend they're interested in the same food. So when they are different, they'll keep silent because they want to get accepted. I think it's hard to imagine that. It's hard to imagine a person would give up pride, choices, preferences, just to get accepted. Okay, and this is like an adult, okay, well-functioning adult. 可是那个就是他的心声 growing up. So what is their true self? When you're constantly expected to be a certain person, it's hard to feel safe being your true self, because being your true self might get you some criticism or doubt or humiliation. 可能我去百货公司买个东西，那个小姐都要 make some comment on my appearance. 那我的 true self 可能不是她想的那个样子。And this is hard. It's a hard decision to choose your true self versus, having a sense of belonging. Having a sense of belonging is very difficult for third culture kids and biracial kids, because 好像没有一个 tribe they fully feel they're aligned or tuned with. 就是 I'm not 100% Taiwanese, I'm not 100% American. 可是 I understand both, okay, but I just don't feel I am you. 好像没有一个地方是可以放这个人。And so sense of belonging is difficult. Even a lot of times when they grow up, they go to college in the U.S. But even there, they still feel they don't belong. 因为他们没有在美国长大，也不是白人嘛，他们也不是真的在那边长大的 Taiwanese American. There's one place they will feel they belong to. A lot of times they say international schools. For example, they go to Australia, they go to the international school. Everybody's from Indonesia, Philippines, Taiwan, Japan. Oh, I feel I belong. I get to shine, and I have sense of pride. So finally, I can have that self-esteem, sense of self-worth. Oh, I matter, I'm visible, I'm fine, I'm okay. It's okay to be different, and I am not different here. It's very comfortable. But by the time they get comfortable and confident, it's time for them to leave, move back to Taiwan or go to college in the U.S. So the fourth group I want to talk about is 很多人都不知道，因为他们看不出来 it's invisible. 就是在美国出生，带回来念小学，然后又回去念书 ，OK？ Or 在这里长到小学3年级，然后去美国念到6年级， They come back from middle school or high school, or even in the middle of the middle school or high school, even worse. And then go back for college. Can you imagine that? Who can live like that? Switching languages and education system like that? And age is a factor. Okay, if we're doing that in our 20s, 30s, fine, we're adults. Moving back and forth, not a big deal. But, okay, can you imagine the hardest part is, 好像 OK, 他在这里念到小学2年级，中文会一点点，然后他去美国 OK, maybe pick up English. 2年后好像 fluent in English. And then the parents decided, 你小学毕业了, let's come back from middle school. You know how horrifying that is? Moving back to Taiwan for middle school. Middle school 在干嘛？考试。Middle school is the most depressive time. 很多人 fall into depression, identity crisis, drop out of school, 就是拒学 during those years. And 那个 back and forth 我讲一下，有些人 back and forth 是因为 parents' job or parents' education. For example, my mom wants to get a PhD, so we moved to New York. And I feel happy because I get to play with my kindergarten classmates. 然后才小学1、2年级 It's fun. 在美国念书 kindergarten, elementary school, pretty fun. And it's easy to make friends when you're young enough. So, okay, they're adopted into the life in America. And all of a sudden, mom's like, okay, I finished my PhD, let's move back. And then 这个小孩可能 3rd grade, 4th grade, in the middle 就是 elementary school. 然后回来，然后 the adults expect the child just you speak Mandarin home, right? You can communicate, 所以你就去念3年级没问题。Or they come back, middle school. 然后 middle school or high school， 然后之前有在台湾念过几年的小学这种 ，and the adults would feel like 你会读中文啊，所以 middle school 你就这样转过来。But what they don't realize is 那个 high school math, high school Chinese is completely different from elementary school math, elementary school Mandarin. 那是不一样的东西啊。People progress and evolve. 然后他回来的时候什么都听不懂 ，like an idiot. 我会，然后人家就说：“哎，你不是会讲吗？你听得懂吗？” But I really don't understand what they are doing in class. Okay, this is not the way I learn math in the U.S. I don't get it. Why? So, 可是他们又没有那种像美国有 ESL teachers， 那台湾应该也有 CSL teachers， 或者是 put them as special education 或者 assistants, right? 没有，什么都没有。所以 they're put into a regular classroom, they will feel like I'm falling behind. Almost, I feel so foreign here, and I'm the only person who doesn't understand. This is a huge impact to their sense of self-efficacy and sense of self-worth. When they are learning with teenagers, they need to feel good about themselves. 可是现在什么都听不懂 ，it's humiliating. 然后我还听过有人被放在资优班 because your English is so good, so put you on 资优班。然后资优班的英文怎么讲 ？Like special privileged, talented class, right? Because your English is so good. 资优班是很惨的。Because everybody's so smart and it's all about taking tests. 那我只有英文好，可是我其他都听不懂啊。可是我在资优班 even harder. Let me go back to my regular class. 然后，有些人就是像 special education. Maybe parents will hire tutors or teachers. My homeroom teacher will stay for 2 hours each day 帮他 tutor Chinese. It's not very empowering. Okay, so a lot of students will want to drop out. They lose motivation to go to school. 就是在那几年，what I call assumed multilingualism, because these kids, they spend some years here in Taiwan, some years in America. People assume they are bilingual by nature. 可是 English 有两种，一个是 academic English， 另外一个是 English for communication. 那a lot of these kids, okay, they are fluent in communication English, but academic English or academic Chinese, 他们是 another matter, a different thing. Okay, a lot of people don't get it. So the frustration they receive in school, they will carry that forever. So this frustration getting in the way of how they perceive themselves, self-concept. Okay, 很多人来是 low self-esteem. So this is very funny. Everybody's saying, 哇，你长得好帅，可是他进来就 very low self-esteem, very lost. 还有一个就是 how parents tell the child we're moving back to Taiwan. 我听过这样的一个很 visual 的一个画面，这样我自己听到也很心疼。他就说妈妈去念 PhD. I'm really happy there. You know, I'm having a good life. I'm a popular kid. 然后我有好多朋友。然后妈妈就说我们明年就要回去咯。And then he starts feeling sad. 我不想要回去。然后he就 go through denial. 然后明年到了，他就跟妈妈说 ，Can we stay for another year? Okay, now mom says, Okay, let's stay for another year. 所以就再多留了1年。When the time comes, moving back to Taiwan is really a big thing. 可是他不会说 he doesn't know how to articulate that. How panic, how scared, losing all the friends, going back to unfamiliar environment, unfamiliar language, and no friends. How scary that is. 可是 he goes through denial until the day 那个 pickup truck 来了，所以他们所有东西都是 sold， 然后搬上车了。They're going to the airport. And then when the mom said get in the car, and then sitting in the back seat. 然后他转头回去看他们的 house, and he starts crying very loudly, 大哭. And in that moment, you realize I'm really leaving. 可是这个可能是10年前的事情，他现在跟我说的已经 in college, okay? 可是 it's involuntary separation. 他不想要离开，他不想离开那个国家那个 environment and that identity. Okay, it's forced. 然后 this person will go through years of prolonged grief. 那个 grief 可以走很多年，所以这个人可能 in college 他还在 denial， 我不想说中文，就是 whatever chance we have in therapy， 他一定要跟我说英文。For him， 那就一种我很想念 ，I really miss my U.S. time， 那个 that me that identity， 所以好像 left some part of him in the U.S. 有个东西没有打包回台湾。You left it there, okay? 所以这个 self 有一点点，这个 prolonged grief 就可以表现出来，他没有什么笑容 ，he doesn't smile a lot， 不是很快乐。然后 get through college and get through high school, get through college， 可是就是好像有一种 grief 那个感觉，所以这个 separation 对这个segment of migration 的 children。Huge impact, but you cannot see it from the outside. They are just like other kids, any other Taiwanese. 看起来没有什么不一样，可是而且他又会说 fluent Chinese， 所以你听不出来，你不知道。So to summarize it, the grief and challenges of Taiwanese Americans when they are rerouting in Taiwan. These are 3 common things that I see when my development is part of parents' healing. What does that mean? For older, some, okay, not all, some older generation parents, when there was a reason going to America, moving to America, especially when it was difficult to immigrate, right? There was a dream. So every parent had a dream. And it's possible every parent had a trauma, intergenerational trauma left in Taiwan, either from post-colonization, war, social oppression, authoritarian ruling, loss of father had multiple wives. The only way they pick themselves up, usually those first generational parents, they're very good at school. Okay, they go study in the U.S. So just imagine that this is a cultural phenomenon. A lot of Taiwanese parents, they heal by raising kids, by raising who they cannot become, what they cannot have in their family. Okay, so they have to see their children being successful in school, being successful in America. So for them, having a son, being a doctor in New York, it's super healing. My daughter married an American and have 2 biracial kids. It's very healing. My children all graduated from UC Berkeley, and they get to share with all the relatives. It's very healing. Even just my kids speak fluent English when they come back to Taiwan to visit. It's healing. It's healing their a lot of unhealed trauma, sense of inferiority, previous family dynamics, a lot of things. So when you are part of your parents' healing, can you imagine what that is like? And it's a cultural phenomenon. Okay, it's hard to avoid. It's inevitable. It's in a lot of our lives. The second thing is a parent I would never have. What does it mean? So when they come back to Taiwan, they will want to learn about history of Taiwan, the parents' past. They revisit the parents' school, revisit the parents' old house, and they even pick up the parents' language. And then they'll realize, okay, 可是 my parents still don't understand me. So when I try to say, Mom, do you remember what happened that year when you said that to me that was really hurtful? Or when you did that to me when you and Dad separated, that was really hurtful? The parents might not have the ability to cope with that, to respond properly. They might not have the ability to understand what mental health is, and what trauma is, okay? So these kids will constantly get frustrated trying to communicate with the parents about their previous wounds. Not to blame the parents, but to get acknowledged and start healing the relationship out of good intention. But the parents' response, oh, don't get me wrong, a lot of parents are very good, okay? They really care about their children, they will apologize, and they will like go to therapy themselves, because I have first generation clients. They do go to therapy to learn about their children. It's very touching. However, there are also a lot of parents, they will never acknowledge what happened. They will never acknowledge the hurt. Even though hurt people, they didn't do it on purpose, okay? But they don't have the ability and education to know how to handle that and how to heal their children. So these kids will go through a phase. It might go for a couple of years, many years, okay? I might never have that ideal parent. I might never get an apology or recognition. I might always have to be the adult in the relationship. I might always have to be the one to go out and learn new things and teach my parents. Okay, because my parent is beyond their ability. So I might have to be the one, 就是擦屁股的那个人. I have to handle the mess. I have to initiate the healing. And they have to rely on their therapist, they rely on their education, their friends, their spouse for healing. 所以我说他们有一个 pseudo self involuntary competency. If you can have a secure attachment and healthy dependency, who will want to be independent all the time? So a lot of Taiwanese American children are praised for being so independent and competent. They are very competent, it's amazing, and very resilient. But a lot of people overlooked. 就是 we never give them a chance to show other parts of their true self. For example, a lot of them are scared at times. They don't know what to do. Growing up without guidance, it's a scary journey. And they are never given the chance to really get helped or to process that fear. So a lot of Taiwanese American children are not allowed to be afraid. 怕什么？我都给你，什么都给你了，你也不用去打工，我给你上学。I pay for your college tuition. So, the vulnerable piece, okay, it's really neglected. And from the outside, they always have to appear competent for work especially, or navigating the new life in Taiwan. They have to be independent. 可是里面有没有一个 human part? 就是 I would get lost, I would get scared, just like any other human being. Yes. 可是那个东西是最没有被看到的 because their language proficiency, their job competency, and their educational background, a lot of people don't see that. 然后就算看见了也会觉得没什么. Okay, so this is a population that we really need to pay attention to. But I want to end on a positive note, is that from knowing so many Taiwanese Americans, I really respect them, I admire them, truly. They're one of the most resilient population on earth. They have a lot of strength and talents. And because of this journey, this bilingual, bicultural journey, they have more possibilities than any other ethnicity. Okay, talk about privilege. It is a privilege that you're able to navigate in two worlds, right? I've seen a lot of resilient people, Taiwanese American. They grew up in the West, educated in the West. 他知道怎么在英国开餐厅，可是他回来台湾 open a restaurant, and they can learn how to do business with Taiwanese customers, the consumer habits, the supply chain, how it works. 你要怎么 order food for them to arrive on time? 这是很大的学问。你怎么收得到钱？OK， 怎么让人家愿意花钱 ？How to do business, and they can be successful. 所以 code switching. When they're in Taiwan, they do business like Taiwanese. When they go to England, they do business like English. 那这个 ability 很少有人有的，很少有人有。那 only biracial, bicultural kids 他们会有这个叫什么 magical power 吗？magical power 对，很神奇 ，very very 很神奇。那我说 coming home is an opportunity to heal your inner child. Think about it. A lot of clients tell me when I was in Nebraska, I could only find a white therapist guy, and I had to explain why I feel this way. So kind of like you have to psychoeducate your therapist and explain, okay, because of this, so I feel this. But in Taiwan, it's like, oh, my therapist can speak 2 languages. And I don't even have to explain anything, okay? Outside of therapy, what I have to explain really hard in the US, here is common sense. It's normal. People get it. It's effortless. So it creates a lot of opportunity for them to feel safe enough, physically safe and psychologically safe in Taiwan. Okay, to think about it, you get stared at on the street in the US, in Nebraska, but here it's like, 都没有人在看你啊. And then if you speak some English, it's even privileged. Like people will help you to find your way, 带你到那里. It might be easier for you to get a job. Oh, people look highly about you. 你的英文好好. And then here, people treat you like family. Taiwanese people are very friendly, which is true. And safety issue, right? 这里, I don't need to be concerned. Like, if I walk on the street 2 a.m., I'll get shot. So, that safety. So we need a safety net, a good base. We need to feel safe enough for our feelings to come out and for our traumas to come out for healing or for our true selves to come out. So a lot of Taiwanese Americans come back to Taiwan because this safety net, 他们开始 feel safe enough to 开始 reveal their identity, their journey, and revisit the past. And it's very inspiring. Realignment is, sometimes when they live in the US, they have a good job, good education, but somehow I just don't feel this is me. Something is missing. It's just weird. But they come back to Taiwan, they pick up the missing pieces and realign their career and realign themselves and have a better sense of what I'm good at, what I want in life. If you don't leave your comfort zone, you never know. So these people, they took the courage to step outside of their comfort zone and start really humble here. And that's why they can create a new identity because they pick up the missing pieces. It's integrated. It becomes a holistic self. It's whole. 就是比较完满的. And then start to accept who they are. I don't have to be 100% Taiwanese or American, and that's okay. I'm who I am. And here they have more opportunity to get accepted too. Yeah, so a holistic self, it's a very beautiful thing to witness. Just like many of you here. So that's it. 这是我今天讲的关于这个 topic. 我用了4个 population, 4个 category 来讲 Taiwanese American. Of course, there are people who don't fall into these categories. There are many, many different life experiences. 讲不完的 very diverse population. But I hope this will bring you some insight to start thinking about who you are, why you're in Taiwan. and start to notice how yourself is developing and evolving in Taiwan. And I hope Taiwan is nourishing you, not disappointing you. Okay, thank you. So we would have like 5 minutes for question or feedback or responses before we move on to the next 下一个阶段。Oh, can you help me to pause the recording? Thank you. 所以下一个阶段我们